Hi, welcome to the quiz. You can answer along on quizalto.com, all for free. The exact URL of this quiz will be in the notes down below. Let's get started, good luck. What is the purpose of the cluster storage operator in ROSA? To set up and manage storage classes. To configure storage quotas. To manage storage encryption. To handle volume snapshots only. The cluster storage operator in ROSA sets up and manages storage classes, enabling dynamic provisioning. Which service manages DNS in a ROSA cluster? Core DNS. Bind. AWS Route 53. OpenShift DNS operator. ROSA uses AWS Route 53 to manage DNS, providing highly available and scalable domain name system web service. How are ROSA clusters updated? Through third-party tools. Automatically by AWS. Through managed updates by Red Hat. Manually by the customer. Red Hat manages updates for ROSA clusters, ensuring they are secure, stable, and up-to-date. How does ROSA handle application monitoring? Using Red Hat OpenShift monitoring stack. Via Prometheus and Grafana. Through AWS CloudWatch. With Nagios. ROSA uses the Red Hat OpenShift monitoring stack, which includes Prometheus and Grafana, for comprehensive application monitoring. Which AWS service can ROSA use for machine learning workloads? Amazon SageMaker through AWS Service Broker. AWS Deep Lens. Amazon Rekognition. AWS Deep Racer. ROSA can use Amazon SageMaker through the AWS Service Broker to run machine learning workloads. How does ROSA handle cluster backups? Only through manual exports. Using Red Hat's backup service or AWS snapshots. Via third-party backup solutions. It doesn't offer backup solutions. ROSA can use Red Hat's backup service or AWS snapshots to create cluster backups. What is the role of the cloud credential operator in ROSA? To manage SSL certificates. To handle OpenShift user authentication. To rotate encryption keys. To manage AWS credentials. The cloud credential operator in ROSA manages and rotates AWS credentials, ensuring secure access to AWS resources. What is the primary benefit of using ROSA? Greater storage capacity. Lower cloud costs. Faster network speeds. Reduced operational overhead. ROSA's primary benefit is reduced operational overhead, as Red Hat and AWS manage the control plane, updates, and security. How does ROSA ensure high availability? By using AWS Global Accelerator. With AWS Direct Connect. By deploying across multiple AWS availability zones. Through AWS CloudFront. ROSA ensures high availability by deploying control plane and worker nodes across multiple AWS availability zones. Which AWS service does ROSA use for secrets management? AWS Secrets Manager. AWS Systems Manager Parameter Store. AWS Key Management Service. AWS Certificate Manager. ROSA can integrate with AWS Secrets Manager to securely store, manage, and retrieve secrets like database credentials. What is STS in the context of ROSA? Short-term storage. AWS Security Token Service. Secure Transport Socket. System Time Synchronization. STS stands for AWS Security Token Service, which provides temporary, limited privilege credentials for AWS resources in ROSA. What is the purpose of the Insights operator in ROSA? To configure log analysis. To handle performance monitoring. To send anonymized health data to Red Hat. To manage cluster analytics. The Insights operator in ROSA sends anonymized health data to Red Hat for proactive issue detection. Which feature allows ROSA to integrate with existing AWS VPCs? VPC peering. VPN connection. AWS Transit Gateway. AWS Direct Connect. ROSA can integrate with existing AWS VPCs using VPC peering, allowing secure communication between the two networks. Which service does ROSA use for service discovery? OpenShift's internal DNS. AWS Cloud Map Integration. Zookeeper. Console. ROSA can integrate with AWS Cloud Map for service discovery, making it easy to manage service locations. How does ROSA ensure secure communication within the cluster? Only through VPN. Using mutual TLS and network policies. With IPsec. Via SSH tunnels. ROSA uses mutual TLS for service-to-service communication and network policies for further security. What is the role of the cluster authentication operator in ROSA? To handle AWS IAM roles. To manage the OpenShift OAuth server. To manage API keys. To configure LDAP integration. The cluster authentication operator in ROSA manages the OpenShift OAuth server, handling authentication. Which AWS service is used for ROSA's load balancing? AWS Elastic Load Balancer. AWS Global Accelerator. AWS API Gateway. AWS AppSync. ROSA uses AWS Elastic Load Balancer to distribute incoming traffic across multiple targets for high availability. Which AWS service is used for ROSA cluster storage? Amazon S3. Amazon Glacier. Amazon EBS. Amazon EFS. ROSA uses Amazon Elastic Block Store for cluster storage, providing high-performance, durable block-level storage. How does ROSA handle container registry? Using Red Hat's Quay.io or AWS ECR. Only with Docker Hub. Through a self-hosted registry. Via GitLab Container Registry. ROSA can use Red Hat's Quay.io or Amazon Elastic Container Registry for storing and managing container images. Which AWS service can ROSA use for serverless computing? AWS Fargate. AWS Lambda through AWS Service Broker. Amazon ECS. AWS Batch. ROSA can use AWS Lambda through the AWS Service Broker, enabling serverless computing within OpenShift. What is the role of the registry operator in ROSA? To manage image quotas. To handle external registries. To configure image scanning. To manage the internal image registry. The registry operator in ROSA manages the internal container image registry, ensuring availability. What is the role of the config operator in ROSA? To manage cluster-wide configuration. To handle network settings. To configure individual pods. To manage AWS resources. The config operator in ROSA manages cluster-wide configuration, ensuring consistent settings. How are ROSA clusters billed? Based on data transfer. Hourly, based on cluster size and type. Per API request. Monthly, with a fixed fee. ROSA clusters are billed hourly, with costs varying based on the size and type of the cluster. How does ROSA integrate with AWS identity services? Through custom identity providers. Via Kerberos. Only through LDAP. Using AWS IAM and OpenShift OAuth integration. ROSA integrates AWS IAM with OpenShift's OAuth, allowing use of AWS identities for cluster access. Which service does ROSA use for cluster networking? Calico. AWS VPC. Flannel. OpenShift SDN. ROSA uses AWS Virtual Private Cloud for cluster networking, providing secure and scalable network infrastructure. And that's a wrap. Thanks to everyone who participated. Remember, you can answer along on quizalto.com, where you can keep track of your progress and find much more quizzes. We hope you had a fun and challenging time. Until next time. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more. Hit the bell icon to be notified as soon as we upload. Please leave a comment if you have any thoughts or suggestions, and, if you think this video is worth sharing with someone who could benefit from it, please forward a link to them. See you next time. Thanks for watching.